Okay, so good morning, colleagues. I hope that you can all hear me. Can I get some thumbs up just to confirm if you can hear me? Thank you. So I think we can begin with the workshop for those that are here, and then others will join in along the way, or they will be able to access the recording that will be posted on our Moodle community. So good morning, colleagues, and welcome to the Research Capacity Development Unit at the University of Johannesburg, the Navigating Turnitin workshop. My name is Kweketso Bila, and I will be your moderator for today. Firstly, I would like to kindly notify you that this session is being recorded, and I would firstly like to start by thanking all the attendees for taking your time to join us today. And most importantly, we would like to thank our presenter for her efforts with preparing and giving this presentation. So before introducing our presenter, Miss Erica, to you, I would like to go over some housekeeping rules and some important information. And so for the housekeeping rules, if you do have questions during the presentation, please raise your hand if you would like to speak, or you can type your question in the chat box. I will then indicate to the presenter to address your question. And as I have already mentioned, this session is being recorded, and the presentation slides will be requested from the presenter, and both the recording and the presentation slides will be uploaded on our Moodle community by the end of the week. And also a feedback survey will be sent out during the session on the chat box. Please may I request that you complete the survey out for us to get some insight on whether this workshop was useful and how we can improve in the future, as well as to provide some kind words to our facilitators for their hard work. And this is also used for the facilitators and RCD reporting, and it also ensures that you get the certificate of attendance. And just a reminder that we have recently launched our RCD management system, otherwise known as the RCDMS, and we will kindly like to urge those who have not yet registered to please do so. And if you do need assistance with the registration, please send us an email on rcdinquiries@uj.ac.za, and we are also available from Monday to Friday from 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock online on Teams to assist those who are experiencing challenges. There is a flyer on our Moodle community that you can access, and it has the link to this Teams meeting for us to assist you with the challenges that you may be experiencing. And if you are on campus today and you are experiencing challenges with the RCDMS, you can kindly go to the library. You will find one of our colleagues, Mr. Lawrence Asani, who will be available throughout the day today to assist with the RCDMS registrations. So without any further ado, I will then introduce to you our facilitator, Ms. Erica Pretorius. And please, colleagues, can we use this time? We know that Turnitin is a very important aspect as a postgraduate student. So please, can we use this time to engage with Ms. Erica? I will then hand over to Ms. Erica for the session. Ms. Erica, can I please just confirm with you if you would like to take the questions during the session, or you would prefer to take the questions at the end during the Q&A session?
Any time is fine. We can stop and pause as long as it's related to what I am saying at that point in time. So what I'm saying, don't ask me a question that's still coming somewhere along the line. But if I'm busy with something, please do not hesitate to ask.
Okay. Colleagues, please just raise your questions on the chat box at any time, and then I will then indicate to our presenter, or you can raise your hand if you would like to speak, and then I will enable your mic, and then you can unmute and speak. Over to you, Ms. Erica.
Okay. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody to this session. And I'd like to start off this session by looking at the picture that you can see on the screen. And what you currently see on the screen is a person alone in a study. And that is your biggest challenge, I think. And that is the loneliness of your journey. You feel totally isolated, you feel alone, and sometimes you think, why and what for? And I can just encourage you to please hang in there, even if you are discouraged, even if you feel lonely, even if you don't know where to next. People, it is worthwhile hanging in there. I completed my PhD, my doctorate in 2015, and I can tell you it is a real life changer. You are one of 21% in the country that has that degree. So, even a master's degree. So, people, even if you are alone, even if you are feel it is too difficult, I don't know where to next, hang in there. You've got your supervisor, and the biggest thing is phone a friend. You've got your colleagues, your fellow students in this site with you, and have a study buddy or somebody that you can call to, even if it's just to blow off steam. Maybe you can't clarify a concept or something with that person, but it is important to have people around you because your family, your brothers, your sisters, your children, your husband do not always understand how difficult and lonely this journey is. They are not in that situation. So you need to stand strong and hang in there. So those are my first words to you. Okay. But it is worthwhile. As I said, I finished mine and it was quite a challenge there. The next thing that I want to say is this session is called Turn It In, Made Simple. And as you all know, we currently have AI. We've got ChatGPT. We have many, many of these systems that could just generate a study for you. It's easy at the push of a button. But people, I would like you to think twice before you do that, because these tools are available. But it will impact on your world of work eventually. It could have serious repercussions for you and destroy your entire career if you don't use it ethically. We are not saying you do not use it. It is a valuable resource, but it is not always reliable. That sometimes it can pull up fake articles. It can give you biased information, all these funny things. So yes, use it, but verify whatever you are using, whether it is in Google Scholar, whether it is in normal Google, whether it's in ChatGPT, just verify, because this could destroy your life. Not only if they catch you out, because then you are suspended for something like 7 to even longer years, and you get a fine and you could be locked up. So please, people, we do say yes, use it, but use it ethically. And why do we say that? Because academic integrity is what adds value to your study. Are you honest enough? Can we trust what you are presenting to us? Are you taking the responsibility that it is your own work? Yes, I do get the information from other sources, but at the end of the day, it is your study. It is not Vygotsky's study. It's not Melvin Damon's study. It is your study. Do you respect your fellow students and the information that you get, that you actually don't distort the information that you actually give to others? Are there fairness in your study? Do you have the courage to actually complete? So the 5 pillars of academic integrity is something that you should build your study on. And here we go for the academic integrity. As I said, it could destroy your life. About a week ago in the news, the George Western Cape report came out. And there, the finding was that the plans submitted to the local municipality in George was for a 1-story building. And what if this architect thought, or even the civil engineer thought, okay, the plans are approved, so let's just make it a 5-story building. It cost you the lives of people. What if he generated the 5-story plan from AI? The M1 breach horror. What if the steel company used AI to calculate the quality of the steel and the number of steel that they needed for the bridge? And there was the disaster. So that's why we say, people, academic integrity is of utmost importance, not only for you to get your degree, because UJ might pick it up, they might not. But at the end of the day, if you are not ethical, you can destroy your entire life and career. So that is what we talk about, academic integrity. Any questions before I go on? Oh, did I scare now the life out of you? I am so sorry.
There are no questions on the chat at the moment, and yeah, there is no one who raised their hand, so we can continue.
Okay. So people, I cannot stress enough the academic integrity. It is very serious. Turnitin is but one tool that we can use to detect whether you have copied from another source. It's just one source. There are many more, Grammarly, and there's so many that we can check for AI. And if they catch you out, they can suspend you. But suspension is minor if it's going to cost you the lives of people at the end of the day when you're going to use it in your real world of work. As I say, Turnitin is one. It's a text similarity report. So what it does, it takes what you write and it compares to whatever else is out there on the internet or in articles. So it will pick up if there is a correlation between what you wrote and what is available online. And as I say, it's one tool, there's many more, but this is the one that has been adopted by UJ. And you can read this entire section here where they actually describe what Turnitin. But as I say, the originality report will give you a comparison of your text, what you wrote, to what is out there in the real world and on the internet. Right. So the Turnitin process works as follows. Your supervisor, and this could be in your postgraduate journey module, or it could be in the UJ toolkit, or in a module. Your supervisor will create a Turnitin assignment, and they will then enable specific settings for your assignment. They choose the settings that they want. They will give you a summary of what is in the assignment, and they will give you an assignment name. Right. In settings that is handled by the supervisor is basically they can set the maximum file size. Now, this is important to know because if you have a PhD study that is more than 450 pages or larger than 100 megabytes, then your supervisor must actually request from the Moodle team, and that is Xolisa Moloi, to actually increase the file size for you. Or the other option is that you actually break up your study into chapters and submit it chapter by chapter. That way it's smaller chunks that goes into Turnitin if your study is very, very large. I know mine was huge because I had a lot of photographs in my study. Anyway, the setting that a lecturer should have is they need to display the similarity report to you, because you might put in chapter 1 and you might get a 50% correlation, and we'll talk about this later. Then you need to go and fix it and resubmit. And maybe if you resubmit, it comes to 80%, or maybe if you resubmit, it comes to 10%. So they must allow you to actually see your own similarity report. Okay, that is very important that they actually set up that session there. Right. Now, as a postgraduate student or as a staff member, if you want to submit any Turnitin assignment, you must have a student role. You submit your assignment as a student. So you set up the assignment as an instructor, but you submit your assignment or chapter as a student. So you have to switch roles top right in your Moodle, you have the little gear icon, or some people call it a little wheel. You can choose what you call it, but there is the option for you to switch the roles. So as a supervisor, if you want to submit on behalf of a student, you also need to switch to the actually as a role as a student, but when you set up the assignment, you actually have that. Okay. Can I just pause for a second? This sounds important. I'll be 2 minutes. Think about a question so long.
Colleagues, so if you have a question, you can take this opportunity to ask any question that you have.
Okay, sorry about that, but it was a lecture, an important call. But if you've got a question, go ahead. Any hands? Okay. So as I said, that is when you have to submit your report. Okay. Then, okay. Once you have submitted your assignment or your chapter or whichever you have submitted, it could be your proposal, it could be any of those. Your submission could take anything up to 30 minutes for your first submission. Every second submission or subsequent submission may take up to 24 to 48 hours. So it is very important that you remember that if I submit for the first time, it could give me a report within 30 minutes. The next time I submit, it could take up to 24 hours. Then it's no good phoning Kat and saying, oh, Turnitin is not working, because we are actually waiting for the report for a subsequent submission. The first one is very quick. The second one may take longer. Okay. Now, when you submit, you will also see in the submission page, you will see there is an 18% correlation, which gives me a little green block. However, this green block and the 18% actually does not mean much, because it could be that it looked at the template, at your cover page, at your list of references, and then that is not a real score. So it's important that even if you get a green little square or a blue or a red or a orange one, that you actually interrogate the report to see where does this 18% come from. And we will go to that a little bit later. But this is where you will see your score of correlation, and then we can take it from there. Right. So once you submitted your assignment, you will get a digital receipt. Now, this digital receipt is just an indication that you actually submitted the assignment or the chapter or the proposal. Now, you will see there's a submission ID if you read at the bottom right. That is a unique identification number of the paper that you submitted. It will give you the exact date, the exact time as to when you submitted it. Okay. But this is not what your examiners want. They actually want the detailed report. This is just proof that you actually did submit it to turn it in. Right. So that is your digital receipt. So no use in printing that, but it is good to actually save this number somewhere should we need to go back and have a look at your original submission with that specific ID number of your submission. Right. Now, as I said, once you got your report and you saw it's at 18%, you must now really go and interrogate this report, and you must have a look. How is this 18% made up? Now, I can see this person was very fond of Samuel Chumkunjin, that name. Okay, because 8% of everything they did came from this source. So now we need to look at, when we look at this source and what they used, are there exact paragraphs or longer sentences copied from a specific source? So if I read the first sentence, it says there, understanding the reasons behind the nation's success or failure has long been a topic of interest for scholars, policymakers, and general public. Now, if I just read that sentence, I can think I could perhaps change has long been a topic of interest, or we can say for a number of years instead of has long been a topic of, for a number of years have been a topic of. So I can change those words. But if you think of scholars, policymakers, and general public, there's not really a way that I could change those words into my own words, because these are the names of the people who's done this. So when you interrogate your report, double check that is that standard terminology that you cannot change? Is it general language that I can change? And that will then minimize your score of 8% should your supervisor indicate that you need to do so. Okay, so as I said, the 18% doesn't mean much. You have to actually interrogate the actual report. So if I read the next sentence, and you can read it for yourself, that there are create opportunities for a broader segment of society, for a broader segment of civil society. So we can change those words slightly to make our scores a little bit less. Okay. So if I go into this and I want to say, okay, but now I want to exclude the Samuel one, I can go into the edit report and I can go and click on the selection that's called exclude sources. So if it was your chapter 1 that correlates to your proposal, for example, we can then go and click on exclude the proposal. And then you can get a new report which will then be clear of your proposal, because there are duplications from your proposal into the different chapters. So this option is available to exclude certain sections, but that is on advice of your supervisor. Right. And as I said earlier, a high similarity score doesn't automatically mean plagiarism. And a low score doesn't guarantee similarity. You have to actually go and interrogate and interpret the report to see what is actually happening there. Okay, so what can I do if I see these are? I can review the matches and see, okay, can I change anything? Can I check the citations? Are the sources properly cited? Are these sources valid? Did I get them from AI, from ChatGPT? Maybe the source doesn't even exist. So very important that you check your citations and your references. Can I paraphrase and summarize certain paragraphs to make sure that there's not a high correlation? Talk to your instructor or supervisor. Very important. They are the knowledgeable people, and they are the ones to guide you through this entire process. And then please focus on academic integrity. People, I can't emphasize that enough, that it is your integrity that is at stake if you do not adhere to academic integrity. It's actually the same thing. So we do not want to question your integrity due to a lack of academic integrity. And I hope that makes sense. Right. So then we get to the turning in settings in the assignment, and that is actually what the lecturers do when they set it up. So I'm going to play this video, and then you can all have a look at that. Right. People, I'm going to stop sharing this video, stop playing it, because you can go and actually look at it in your own time. Okay. So let me just quickly get out of here. Just go back. That was the Trinity. Okay, so there it is with the UJ and the AI, and I've preached to the converted, and this is exactly what I was talking about, that you must please use your AI ethically. Right. Let me just share this again as a slideshow and go, 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 because I went out of the video. Let's just go there. Okay, right. So we would really like to empower you with your academic success. It is very important that you are actually ethical about all of this and that you do get to the end of your journey. It is very important that you also realize that you do need your friends, you do need your fellow students, you do need your supervisor, because this is not a class you sit in. This is a very, very lonely journey, and you actually do need to actually have somebody to talk to in this scenario. So any questions from your side?
Thank you, Ms. Erica, for that presentation. I actually didn't know that it was good to learn that you can actually choose to exclude the proposal when you're submitting the other chapters. Thanks for that. And there is a question on the chat from Tsagani. And she say, does resubmitting a document contain anything such as submitting an initial version and then a revised version increase its similarity score?
Yes, exactly. And what we can also do now is to go into a live module. Let me just get into that one, that we can find a live module somewhere. And then we can talk the students through this. Let me just see. Okay, there we go. Just share the screen again, because we stopped the screen sharing. And please, people, please ask, because this is what you are going to do. And at the end of the day, you will actually have to do all of this. Okay, so in the Moodle module, and please, now is your time to interrupt and raise hands and ask. So you will have a Moodle module. It could be the UJ toolkit. It could be your master's module. So the name of the module doesn't matter, but your supervisor will tell you where to go into. Okay, so this is the crucial part, right? In the module that you will be using for your PhD study or your master's study, there will be a link where the lecturer actually created your Turnitin assignment. So on the left-hand side in your course menu, you will find the link to your Turnitin assignment. Okay, so if I click on it, it will actually open my Turnitin assignment. And this is where you're going to submit it. Okay, now, as I said earlier, I have to be in a student role. So I go down to switch role 2 and a student role. As a student, you don't have to go this route because you are enrolled as a student. These are for supervisors who wants to submit on behalf of a student. If you are already the student, you will see the module like this. This is what you will see. It looks exactly the same. And as a student, you will simply click on the link to go to the assignment. You will then simply click on the assignment and it will open up the page for you where you can then actually submit your assignment from. Okay, so there's your submission item, and I can go in there and then there is my submissions. Turn it in. You see, I am not properly enrolled in this module, but this is basically where you will type in your assignment title. I can't see where it is. Marcus done. I don't know visible groups. Let me see. This was Emily. So all participants. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so I want to submit my paper here. Emily already submitted a paper, but there is the submission link for you to then submit your paper from this page over here. Okay. I can't see, it says refresh submissions, but I think this has to do with my role in the module that I can't actually submit from here. Okay. Once I've submitted my assignment, I can actually go back and return to my normal role. Okay. And as a student, you will also see this view that I'm showing you now. Because once I click on the assignment, and as a lecturer, when I'm in there and I click on the Turnitin assignment, it will bring up the correlation report. Can you see there? Where is it? There's Emily's report, part 1, post date, that is with setup. And Melvin, I can't see Emily's submission. Okay. You know what? I am going to hand over to Melvin at this point in time because I cannot actually view the submission of Emily here. And I think it has to do with my role in this assignment, in this module. Okay, it's not showing me. So, okay, I'm going to just run next door and give Melvin the option to actually show you the Turnitin report. Okay, just hold on.
Okay, thank you. I'll give you a moment. While we're waiting for Ms. Erica, can I just remind everyone to complete the feedback survey that is in the chat, and let me just post it again. Yes, posted. So just to remind everyone to complete the feedback survey before you leave the session, and just to encourage you also to please bring the question on the chat so that we can ask Ms. Erica and Mr. Melville.
Okay, people, Melvin will join us shortly. I'll just stop sharing because he will be sharing the screen. But any questions from your side now? Please do that now.
Just to ask Ms. Erica, so
Yes.
when you choose to exclude the sources, does it also exclude the in-text references, or is it just the reference list at the end?
That all depends on the settings that the lecturer or the supervisor sets up. Okay. As I showed you the settings earlier, and I can quickly go into that while we're waiting for Melvin. So let me quickly go into the module and I can then show you the settings. Let me just quickly share my screen again while we're waiting for him. Okay. So in the settings of the Turnitin assignment, okay, so there we go. There is the RCD assignment, and I'll just work you through the settings while we're waiting for Melvin. Okay, so in here, we will go in here, and I think I must just maybe, while we're busy with the edit settings, let's just open up the assignment. There's the assignment, and I just want to check if there's no restriction, but here, put it as good. Okay, so there is the setting. So we allow any submission type. This is what the supervisor sets up. And as a student, you will not be able to change these, okay? The file limit, allow any submission, and then grade display, and then there it is, automatically refresh the similarities. Okay, then we go back to the other settings on the right-hand side. very important that the lecturer actually says that this show on the course page. It has to show on the course page. That the point out, that is all, but also very important is actually the dates. Okay, so if it's a PhD student, for example, then the due date should basically be set as the end of the year or even 2026, because you don't know how long the student is going to take. So don't limit the time for postgraduate students, that is for the lecturers, okay? Then the similarity options. This is where you say, it is important to actually say that it goes to no repository, because there will be resubmissions. As you write your chapter 1, you will maybe have to resubmit 1 or 2 or 3 times if the correlation is very high. So then it needs to say no repository. Check against the stored papers, yes. Internet, yes. And this is where the lecturer sets up the actual exclude the bibliography, yes or no. Quoted materials, yes or no. But the in-text, if they want to do the in-text, they can put there a 5% or not. I always say do not put any exclusions, because then you know you're getting a real report. You can always exclude at a later stage, but on the initial submission, you do not exclude for the students. Okay. So I just quickly want to see if I can call Melvin into this. Melvin Damon's request to join. Okay, so Melvin will join us shortly. Okay. Any other questions? Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does answer my question. Thank you. Also, just to add on that question. So, as a postgraduate student, we know that we actually have to do this ourselves. Like for those who are doing purely research and not like the coursework or the professional research, we don't really have lecturers to set all those settings for us. We just have to go to ULink and make the submission. We have to mistaken to enroll into the Turnitin for this year 2025, and then we have to do the submissions ourselves. So as those settings still apply, we need to set it out ourselves, so that automatically set on that.
Oh, you are breaking up terribly. You are actually breaking up terribly. No, the lecturer or the supervisor will set up the assignment. And then what happens is us at CAT, our system admin staff, will get a list of the students who are supposed to be in a particular postgraduate journey module. And then we can enroll you by default if your supervisor sends us the actual list of students. If you're doing the toolkit, then there is a button that you'll press to say request access, and then the CAT team will enroll you into that one. But our preference will be for your supervisor or your lecturer to set up a module for your postgraduate studies and have all of you in that one module, and that way you can also communicate with each other, which is very important because, as I said, it's a very lonely journey and you really need to speak to each other because there is not so many people around to assist you. So, Melvin, I see that this assignment was set up for a group, and for some reason I cannot access it. So thank you, Melvin, for joining us, and Melvin will now go into his module, and then he will then take you through the actual submission and then the report itself. Over to you, Melvin.
Yeah, the reason why it's not there, it's because of the timing, the start date, due date, and post date that's been already set. So this assignment is already closed. I need to create another link so that Emily can upload a Turnitin assignment. So yeah, that's it needs to happen. So let me just do that, Erica, whilst I speak to Emily to upload the assignment. But have you touched on the settings of the assignment?
Yes, I did, but I can go back to it again. So any questions from your side? People, it's very important as you are studying that you ask us questions now, because remember, I remember my study days. You know, I would sit there at 10 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever the case might be. And then there's no one to phone. And you are so frustrated that you rather ask us now and let us guide you through this process now. So any question you have, please, people, ask us now while Melvin is asking Emily to resubmit that assignment.
So I've enabled everyone's mic. So if you like to ask a question, just unmute yourself and then you can speak. Everyone's mic is enabled. Thank you.
Nothing. I think it will only happen once you are actually trying it for yourself. So what I would like to suggest that everybody that is in this session, I'd like you now to go to Moodle, to Ulink and to Moodle, and to find either a playground or any of the modules that is available to you and have a look and see if the Turnitin link is there available to you. So I'd like to encourage you now to minimize the team session. Don't go out, just minimize, and then go into Ulink where you log in. And I want you to, as a student, to actually go into Moodle and then to find the module where you could actually see your Turnitin assignment. Okay. And let's see if we get any questions from there. Because I know for myself.
I think Ms. Erika is most of the students actually, like you have said, that a lecturer must create a module for their students and then we can do all those settings set up for the students. I think most of the students are not having that in a sense that maybe they have to do it themselves, they have to do the submissions themselves on the Turnitin, and it's not really inside a module that the test created. Maybe it's something that the supervisors can look into so that they need to process simpler for all the students, they can just do that and read the module. Yeah. Because on my side, I do have my Turnitin open, but it's not in the module, it's just in the Ulink. I just put Ulink. So,
but if they are registered, they can actually just go into Ulink for now. Yes. And see if they can access Ulink and see the notifications and then go into the Moodle modules and see what they do have available. What I can also encourage them is if I go back to Moodle, there is the UJ tools available to them. And when you study, it is very important that you actually have this Acrobat Adobe DC because you want to submit your final study as a PDF document. Okay. What is also important for you as a student is basically the research tools and the software. So while we're waiting for the submission, we have Atlas TI, and Atlas TI is basically there for your qualitative study, for those people who know what a qualitative study is. A qualitative study is basically a text-based study where you don't use statistics and you analyze your interviews and what people say. Then EndNote is crucial. This is a referencing tool that assists you to compile your list of references. So you will simply click on the link and then you will download this EndNote to your computer, and from your computer you will then be able to load it onto your computer, and this will assist you in actually compiling your list of references. Now, my list of references for my study was something like 64 pages. So people, you need a tool. You can't just do your own list of references. We've got Grammarly, which assists you in writing, to do academic writing, And there is also inside Grammarly a tool to check whether you used AI or not. And it can identify the specific AI tool you used for a specific section in your study. So as I said, responsibly, integrity, your integrity equals academic integrity if you really want your degree. Right. Then we've got Amos, which is basically your quantitative tool to actually get quantitative data analyzed. You've also got SPSS and Stata. And these software tools, you can simply click on it and then download it for your computer and upload it again. Should you need any passwords or anything for these installation passwords for these software, it should come up with the next screen. If not, you go to the library. They are the owners of these software packages. Okay, so I think it's Ivy or Dorcas that is the owner of these software packages, which you are welcome to use for your studies. All right. So those are, when you go into ULink, you will be able to find the UJ tools, and from there, you will be able to download those tools and play around with them, people. It is really useful tools. Then there is your Moodle login. If you go there, you will be able to go to your modules, and I'm just going to put there Melvin, because this is the module I'm working in. Yours will have a different name. All right. And yeah, so there are your software tools. I think while Melvin is actually doing that, I wonder if I have something in my playground. Let's have a look at this.
Let's send you the assignment. I've created the link, assignment number 3. If you were to submit an assignment as a student in my playground, so that the colleagues can see how it pans out or how it appears in the Turnitin assignment platform.
Okay, that's perfect. Let me go, Mel. You said assignment 3. Okay, so Melvin, as my supervisor or my lecturer, he created, Melvin, why can't I see it? I see RCD. Where did you do the assignment 3 in your playground?
Yeah, that's the one you need to submit.
Yeah,
I've sent you a PDF document in your inbox, Why Nations Fail. Upload that assignment as a student.
Okay. In this link, you would like me to submit it there?
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, I'll have to go to student view.
Yeah.
Very important. If I need to submit, I need to go in as a student. You people are students already. Okay, so you don't have to do this one step that I have done now. Okay, let me just go and find this that Melvin sent me. Melvin. No, Melvin, it's not here yet. We're just waiting for it. You sent it on my normal email?
Yes.
Okay, just waiting for it, just refreshing quickly. There we go, and I found it. Okay, so people, you know what? I am just going to actually share my screen with you. So there's Melvin's assignment. And this is what will happen. You will take your assignment, which is a PDF. I am going to download this one. I'm going to put it in my downloads folder, and I'm going to submit it from there. Okay, so let me pull this away and take this out of the way. Okay, and I am back in Melvin's playground. Okay, so I am, as a student, I'm going into the RCD. Okay, there is an assignment 3, so I click that is where my lecturer or my supervisor created the link for me. And there
your screen, you can't see, Erica.
Oh my goodness, I thought we could. Let me just do that then straight from the beginning. I thought it was, there we go, we want this one. Okay, so there's Melvin's playground. There is the space that my lecturer supervisor organized for me. If I go to the top, Melvin created the assignment 3 for me. And now remember, I've got the assignment. Melvin was very kind. And there I have the link that says submit a paper. So there you can see the whole page, and I can say submit a paper. It asks me, what is it? I want to upload a file. And this is my chapter 1. And it is very important that you label it correctly, because sometimes you forget what I've uploaded or not. I click on the word files, and a text box will open up. You just wait for it. Just trying to wait for it. It's not opening yet. Sometimes the network is slow. People, that is also what you need to consider. If you have a slow network connection, then it's not a Ulink or a Moodle problem. It is a network problem. And this one, as you can see, it's taking a long time because I want to add the file. But you can see at the bottom, it's loading and loading and loading. Trying to find the file.
Can you drag and drop as well, Erica?
Can I drag and drop as well? There we go. So I'll go into my downloads, which is down here. There we go. And I'll just split my screen there. Whoops. And I can take Why Nations file. Doesn't download it properly. And I can say add the submission. Oh, I didn't put the title. Nations file. Okay. And then I say add submission. And it hasn't downloaded completely. It must be a large file, Melvin. And there's my digital receipt. You remember what I said earlier about the digital receipt? Very important that you save this number as proof that you've submitted. It's not your correlation report. It's just proof that you actually submitted. Okay. And then I can close this window and I can go back. There it shows very quickly, nations fail, 12% similarity. And as I said, 12% means nothing. I have to interrogate the actual 12% and to see where is my concern. So if I go into the report, I click on the 12, and there it gives me the correlation of what I copied. Okay, so there it says they differentiate between extractive institution, concentrate on power and wealth in the hands of a few elites. So few, I can say a limited number. So if I want to eliminate the word few, I can find an alternative synonym. Inclusive, including could work, or incorporating, so I can find different words if I want to make this smaller. Okay, so let's say I would like to exclude this because this was chapter 1 correlation. I click on the little black arrow, okay, and it gives me the actual source. So if I click on the match overview, it shows me exactly where the match comes from. Okay, if I click on the filter, this is where I can say exclude quotes, exclude bibliography, exclude a number of words, exclude a percentage, or don't exclude by size. That was a color we had. And then we can say apply changes. All right. So from there, we can actually then exclude what we don't want in this report. I just want to go down and close my screen slightly. Okay, so that is how you can then, this is your feedback studio. I'm just going back there and I'm back in assignment 3. This is where I see my correlation. And once I am in there, the icon also for downloading the report that the lecturers want or the supervisors want is if I click on this little button with the arrow download and the line underneath, it will say current view. I will download the current view, and this is then the report that you will submit alongside with your study. It's just preparing the download. I don't know how big this file is, Melvin. Okay, let's see if it's downloaded.
A few pages.
A few pages. Okay, we're just waiting. That was the actual assignment. It's not there yet. Okay, but we will go back to the report. So once I've actually looked at my settings in here, okay, then I can go back to the actual assignment. Let me just move these links here. I can actually go back to the assignment. I can go back to my wheel. I can go back to my normal role, but as a student, you don't have a normal role, but your lecturers do, your supervisors do. Okay, and then from here, you can also then see your actual score and similarity from here. But it hasn't done, it's still working, is it? It's in the good. So that is how you will submit. As I said, you don't have to go into the student role. You will simply go into the assignment and then submit from there. So as a lecturer or supervisor, I click on that, and from here, I will be able to see the similarity reports and work it from here. Any questions? To see if
we have questions on the chat from Laurent, and saying, as a master student, can I also submit directly my work to my supervisor? I don't know if Laurent would like to maybe elaborate on the question and just unmute yourself to give a bit of context to your question.
Okay, that is a discussion between you and your supervisor. Okay, supervisors generally, they also teach, they also do their own research, so their time is limited. So I think in general speaking, and this is not for me to say, supervisors will actually expect of you to submit your work until you are satisfied and you've got a minimal correlation, and only submit the final one to the supervisor, which they will then submit. The supervisors do not have the time to submit the assignments or submissions of 20 students. So the responsibility will remain with you as a master's or a PhD student, and only your final submission the supervisor might submit on behalf of you. But as a student and master's and a PhD student, the responsibility, and this is generally speaking, would lie with the student, and the lecturer or the supervisor will only do the final submission. Does that answer your question?
Okay, Laurent will confirm that. So he is confirming with a thumbs up. We have another question on the chat also from Malibu, and she's saying maybe an unrelated question, but is there a tool that is able to detect AI content, something like Turnitin, but to detect AI content, or can Turnitin be used to detect it?
Turnitin can also detect AI, so we can switch on that functionality. But generally speaking, and I'm just sharing my screen as well, because there you can see we have Grammarly, so we can also use Grammarly to detect your AI, and we have a paid license. So this free one is free, but UJ's one is more advanced because we are actually paying for it. Okay. Check AI Player, there's Judgestone, there's Quillbot, there's Scribble, there's Zero GPT, there's GPT-0, there's SciSpace. So people, what I'm saying is academic integrity is your integrity. Do not take a chance. Yes, use AI. By all means, we encourage that. But use it ethically and make sure that you hand in your own work. As you can see, there's many free ones, there's many paid ones, but do not take that chance. I can promise you it's not worth it. You do not want to destroy your career. Okay, another question. I hope so.
Okay, thank you. My question, I have two questions that I want to ask. Okay, let me rather say three. The first one is in understanding on the difference between the similarity index, as generated by Turnitin, for example, and plagiarism, right? There maybe we can use a case where you get 2% of maybe possibly 2 pages, then 2% of 500 pages, for example, right? Then the second one is on this AI, generative AI, detectors, like Grammarly that you are mentioning. What criteria does it use to detect that a person has used generative AI? Because I've seen some instances where if you write well, right, you don't make mistakes, you use maybe big words, you have your own style of writing, but sometimes that style it's also picked up as if you have used generative AI, yet you did not use generative AI. So what criteria does it use? Because we cannot say if a person doesn't make a mistake, then you have used generative AI. So what criteria does it use? I think maybe you can just assist me on those. Thank you.
Okay. Quite frankly, I am not a programmer of AI detection tools, but I can tell you that as your supervisor, they are the experts, the absolute professionals in your field of study. So just by reading your document, they should be able to pick up whether this is your work or not your work. Remember, we are talking about a professor here that is an expert in, let's say, your studies about microbiology or people's behavior or educational psychology or management. They are experts. They've been reading books and articles for years and years. That's why they're so old. Sorry to say that, but that's true. So they will be able to recognize. But listen, I have read this somewhere. Somewhere I have seen this thing, why nations fail. So your first point of call is your supervisor, who is the expert. And if they say, I have seen this somewhere. So if I want to go and check, because I think this is one, they will simply go into Google. That will be their first step. Let me just go back there quickly. Reasons behind a nation's success. So there we go. Reasons behind a nation's success. And this is not an AI tool, I might add. This is a professor who read your work and who thought, I recognize this from something I've read maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or from another student. They simply have to Google and look at all these they get. You can go to the next page and the next page. So quite frankly, what I am saying to you, that your professor, as the first point of AI, will be able to recognize if it is not your work, because they have read books and articles by the millions. That's why they are professors. Okay, so apart from the tools, I am not a programmer, but apart from the tools, they can simply put in there, I recognize this sentence, so let me go and check. The other thing that they can check is that if your writing a sentence doesn't make sense, so they read a sentence, the main causes and effects of a country economic success is related to finance and maybe productivity, which means blah, blah, blah. And this AI just made up a sentence that doesn't make sense. So just by reading your document, somewhere in chapter 3, page 25, there is one sentence that doesn't make sense. So immediately they're going to detect that. So that is AI, because AI is not perfect. It's a robot. Remember, it's been programmed. It makes mistakes. The other thing they can do is they can read your document, and then when they look at your document, and here they saw, okay, this, oh no, I have never seen this source. Okay, this one, Collier, 219. No, Collier, no. Collier talks about microbiology, they don't talk about politics. So let me go and check this source. And sometimes they type in a source, and then that source doesn't exist because AI made it up. Remember, it's a robot. AI is a robot. And robots do make mistakes, or the programmer forgot to put a little full stop or something somewhere. So somewhere in your study, we can see a sentence doesn't make sense. As an expert in the field that you are studying in, okay, I've never read this, so where does the student get this from? Because I'm a professor, I've read hundreds of articles and books. And the other one is, I've never seen this source. So remember, it's not only the tools, it's also the human element that can detect AI. And that's why I say, well, as a PhD student, take your chance. I want you to go and Google actually somebody called, I think, Chippy Shake. I don't even know if I can spell this anymore. I think it was like that. And there we go, Chippy Shake. And there we go. How Chippy Shake's taunt led to a probe into his PhD. And he was discharged from this. And there's a German first prime minister or something that also, look there. People, it's up to you to take that chance. Please do, go for AI. Use it ethically. Yes, I support you all the way. But double check and give your own work. Or take your chance and go and burn the bridges, make the buildings fall down, kill people in the process because you are not an expert unless you did an ethical study. Sorry for scaring you, but this is the real world, people. This is the real world. Rather walk the mile and get your degree with a smile, or do the crime and then you must do the time for being unethical. Okay. So I'm sorry for scaring you, but that is the real story of PhD. Over to you. Tsepiso, I see there's a question.
Thank you for acknowledging my hand. So I just want to have a follow-up question to what you said. So let's say that you're the one who wrote everything, you wrote it well, you did not use AI. And then the question that was raised before, that what if you know that, okay, you did everything right, but whenever you go to the tools, it detects that.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe you're not even confident to submit it like that, even though you know that, okay, this is my work, I did it myself, but you're like, because of the score that I'm getting here, I'm not confident to submit something like that, even though I know that I did it myself.
Okay.
So what happens?
Okay. Let's say I did this one myself. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, I
There's
can.
a tip thing. I can still see my screen. I'm telling you now, I wrote this sentence. Nobody else but me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
Now your supervisor goes in here and they go to the actual source. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I can click on that and it will take me to the actual source. And there is no way that you can actually write the exact same sentence as Albert Einstein, for example. Okay.
Yes.
There might be specific words, a short phrase, maybe 3 words in a line, and this thing's taking long to load now, or 5 words in a line. But there's no way that I can write an exact same paragraph as Melvin, my colleague, does, for example.
Okay.
Melvin will use a different word or two, and I'm talking paragraphs. I'm not talking specific addressing poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, because those are standard terms. But if this whole paragraph was read, it is impossible, because there must be a is, am, are, why, when, however, that must be different. So we can go to the actual source, even in AI, and find it. Okay. So all I'm saying is, please don't take the chance. And quite frankly, your supervisors are human. Go and talk to them, and they will say yay or nay. Because remember, they are not the ones marking your final dissertation. They are there to guide you through the process and to make sure this doesn't happen. But once it gets to that examiner and you don't know who the examiner is, quite frankly, your supervisor won't know who the examiner is, because it gets sent out to international and local examiners, who is even possibly more expert in a specific field. So even if your supervisor doesn't pick it up, the examiner, international, local, might pick up something, and then you've got trouble. So people, we're not scaring you. We're just asking you, please be ethical. It's your name. Your name you have once in life. If your name is destroyed, it's going to stick to you for the rest of your life, similar to a criminal record. So just do your work. I mean, my kids, they look up to me. When I did my PhD, I did most of my studies between 2 and 6 in the morning, because I had kids to get to school. It wasn't an easy journey. But I can look everybody in the eye and say my name is honorable, and I can find a job. Anybody can go and look in my profile, and they will not find any dishonesty there. And that is what you are aiming for as professionals in your field. Thank you. Okay, next question.
Hello. Question on the chat. Okay, let me just check.
Okay, go for it.
Can you make go ahead? You may go ahead, Zakani.
You're breaking up slightly. Okay, unmute and then you can talk. Who are we talking to? Justice? No, the other one is Tshepiso again.
Hello, can I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to understand the workflow process. So I've uploaded a document as you did here, and yes. I found some similarities on some of my paragraph, and I want to rephrase. So what would be the workflow process to work efficiently? Would
you like to share your screen? I'll stop sharing.
No. I'm just asking a question. I'm not sharing.
Okay, you can stop sharing. Okay. If it was me, okay, I will tell you what I do. I will take a normal Word document, or wherever it is. Okay, let me just see. Let me go to the one that Melvin gave me. What's in my downloads? And it's not downloaded property. Simple degree. I just want to see talent identification. I don't know what this is, but let's just open it. This is a document. Okay. So I have to share my screen. Oh, you can still see my screen. Okay, so this was just a term test. But let's say this was highlighted here. Okay, identify common areas of concern. This is a sentence, and it shows plagiarism. Typically, what I would do is I will take the sentence. I will think about what I've written, first of all. But then I will say I will actually right-click on this section, and I will go and find, okay, I'll have to convert this thing first. Convert, export PDF. Let me just get it into a Word document, otherwise it won't work. So I'll put it into a Word document and just put it into my downloads folder. Okay, and save it there. I just need a Word document to show you what I would do. Okay, so this is now a Word document. Okay, so I can go in there and I can have a look. Okay, there's 3 propositions to discuss. I hope this is a Word document now. So if I right-click, okay, there should be an option for synonyms. So there is the word propositions. So if I right-click and I go to synonyms, I can say intentions. suggestions, proposals, offers, plans. So then I'll go back to my sentence and say, select 3 propositions. Will the word proposals work? Maybe. Suggestions, will the word suggestions work? And then I can change specific words or phrases just using simple word. And then when I've done that, I have to reread the sentence and the paragraph to make sure that it does make sense. Because when you study, there is things like coherence, linking words, all these wonderful things that's academic writing that you have to consider. So it's easy enough to right-click and get a synonym. Okay, choosing, picking, decide on, pick out. But does your sentence, does your paragraph still make sense? Is it coherent with the rest of my study? Does it link with my next paragraph? So if it shows specific areas, yes, I can go and change words, but make sure you choose your words wisely. Okay. Does that answer your question? Justice? Was it Justice I was talking to, Tsakani?
Yes. And then after you have fixed your document, you delete the original one and upload this.
No, you don't delete anything because they set it as a no repository. Okay, it will give you a new report. It will actually overwrite your previous submission. So you don't have to delete anything. It will overwrite your first one and give you a new report.
Okay, and the last question is: so is there a tool that you can use to check for similarities as you are working on the document without having to keep re-uploading?
Yeah, there are many free tools available. You can just go into Google and say plagiarism detection similarity tools. There's many free programs that you can also use. Okay, you don't only have to use Turnitin. It's just that Turnitin is the leader in the field, and that's why UJ is paying lots of money to actually have that, because we have UJ's name at stake. As much as we have your name at stake and you have your own name at stake, we also have UJ's name at stake. Because imagine nobody will employ students from UJ if all our students plagiarized. And that's why we are so strict and firm on doing this. Okay, Tsepiso? Is it Tsepiso or Molefe? I don't know which name you use. Go for it.
Tsepiso, it's fine. Just a quick question. So with the free websites that you're talking about that one can use, don't we also run the risk of giving them our information, in a sense that would it not be like, how can we trust it that definitely sure whatever it is that we submit, it's yours alone, it's not going to be leaked somewhere somehow, especially because there's AI these days. Are we sure that it's not going to be leaked anyway anyhow? Because sometimes it could be like really sensitive project information that you are not ready to share with the world, you know.
There is no guarantee. But my personal thinking of this is that I will not even send my banking account to my son on WhatsApp because somebody can tap into it. I will not use any free software because somebody can tap into it. Unfortunately, we have all these hackers out there. And once your material is on the internet, somebody else can claim it before you even submit your study. Now, it's very scary. I mean, I'm threatening you, but at the same time, I am very scared. I have my son-in-law. He's actually what they call a white hat hacker. And what they do is, it's his job to try and hack into banks and to try and hack into companies. Because how do they make their money? Once they can hack into a company or a bank, they can go to the bank and say, hey, guys, I hacked into your bank, but I can give you the solution. So now they can sell the solution. But my point on this one is basically that whatever you put on the internet is a free-for-all. So I would rather keep my work to myself, use the one that UJ is paying for, because there we have some control from UJ's side, and nobody can steal your work. But it's over to you, as I say. Remember, you always have a choice. We are not giving you the choice. You are responsible adults, professional adults, postgraduate adults, and the choice remains yours, not ours. Okay. Any other questions?
It's just a question that came through on the chat. And he says we do not need to do any research projects on the internet, especially ChatGPT. That's a comment.
Yes. As I say, ChatGPT, it's very clever people out there, and people, to me, it's very scary. I went to the Moodle conference, and Melvin can verify this. We went to the Moodle conference, and there was a robot. So we chatted to the robot, and we said, "Good morning, how are you?" Yes, my name is Erica, and yes, I am here at the conference, and I'm here to learn a few things. Not a half an hour after that, they had an interview with the robot, not with me, with the robot, about a different topic, learning theories. And the robot said, "Good morning, my name is Melvin." Yes, and we are here to discuss. I almost fell on my back because that recording that I said, "Good morning, I'm at the Moodle conference," the robot took, he made it his own, and he used me, my interview, for a different space, imitating me, Erica. He imitated me as Melvin. I was completely shocked out of my mind, because that is where technology is going to. And if you look at all these sci-fi movies, it's not so far-fetched. Look, I'm an old woman now, or almost old. I won't tell you how old I am. But when I was at school, I could never have dreamt that we had the internet, never mind ChatGPT. We had pen and paper, and we worked with telegrams, and we worked with fax machines and typewriters. Never in my life, at my age then, I thought this could happen. Now, imagine you are in this age. Imagine what's happening 5 years from now. It's getting worse by the day and more scary by the day. So please, people, just think of yourself and your own name and your way forward. You want this degree honestly and with academic integrity. Any other questions? I love preaching, you see. I'm a mommy of many, so don't let me preach to you. Okay. Okay. So yes, if there's no more questions, Melvin, over to you.
Yeah, no, you have mentioned everything at the moment, Erica. There's nothing I can add except that the students, like you said, the integrity depends on them at the end of the day.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, then thank you very much for your time. Good luck with your studies, and don't forget about the term. Phone a friend, phone a supervisor. You will need it. It's a long journey. It's a tough journey, but it's worthwhile at the end of the day to make a success of your life and set the example for your children. I can tell you that your children look up to you as parents if you have children. Your peers look up to you. So please, people, give it your all. And academic integrity, personal integrity, and your name is at stake here. So if there's no more questions, then over to the facilitator.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. I see my colleague Koketz, I think maybe she might be experiencing some kind of technical glitches, maybe Wi-Fi or something of that sort. But we thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Let me ask again from the audience, can you hear me clearly? Just by show of virtual thumb, if you can hear me. All right, thank you so much. So if there's no any questions, because I checked on the chat box, let me check again on the chat box. I don't see. I think all the questions have been addressed. So I just want to thank the facilitator for agreeing and taking time to facilitate this session. We have, I think, learned a lot. You know, this issue of 1018, we don't really understand it. You know, many we don't really share a consensus on that. But I think from today we more like have a shared perspective of what 1018 entails. I think the facilitator has done a great job in trying to bring the disparities between similarity score, plagiarism, and even showed us some practical examples. I thank you so much for that. I just want to remind the audience that we have posted the feedback survey in the chat. We kindly ask you to complete that feedback survey. We use it for reporting purposes. We also use it for you to be able to receive a certificate of attending this session. So we kindly ask you to complete that. We also want to bring it to your attention that we recently launched the Research Capacity Development Management System, and we are migrating from the usual platforms that we were using to RC DMS. So we encourage you to join us today, because we have an information session at 2 o'clock. We have an onboarding sessions that take place every day. We also have a colleague, but today is stationed at Bunting Road campus, but on a rotating basis, he goes on all the campuses in the libraries and stationed there to register people on RCDMS. So we encourage you to also, join us so that you continue to receive information on our events and be able to join our events and other services that we offer as the RCD. And if you have any questions, you can email us at rcdinquiries@uj.ac.za. With your permission, Ms. Pretorius, if it's fine, we can close the session. Any concluding remarks from you?
None from my side. I can just say good luck. Hang in there, and it's really a worthwhile journey. No matter how difficult it is, hang in there, guys. You can do it. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Once again for agreeing and taking your time to prepare and lead us with the session for today. And to all the participants, thank you so much as well. We appreciate your continuous support for the Research Capacity Development Unit. And with this, I wish you all a great day further. Thank you so much. I'm now ending the recording and also closing this session. The resources, both the slides, will be requested from the facilitator, and the recording and the slides will be uploaded on our Moodle platforms within about 3 to 7 days after we've reviewed the content. Thank you so much, and have a great day further.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.